Hello, viewer, and welcome to another episode of the Catholic League Forum. I'm Director of Communications at the Catholic League, Mike McDonald, and joining me today is President and CEO of the Catholic League, Bill Donohue. Now, Bill, we've had another, as always, busy week here at the Catholic League and had a lot of big issues to take on this week. But probably the biggest one we dealt with were two cases originating in the Northwest. Both are pending before the Supreme Court in some sort of status, both represented by First Liberty, involving just terrible attacks on Christians' religious liberty. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, the reason we put them together, because they not only do they come from the most atheistic segment of states in the country, Washington and Oregon. I mean, they're only rivaled by New England. They're even worse. But they just won't let it go. The hatred of Christianity is palpable. In one particular case in Oregon, it sounds similar to a case that was before the Supreme Court a few years ago. You got these bakers who had said, listen, we'll sell our bakery goods to anybody. We don't care. We don't make any distinction. But then you get a lesbian couple comes in there and they want you to custom made the cake for them. Well, that's a little bit different. If you're going to custom make a cake, that means you're really giving sanction and legitimizing something which they could not do. These are practicing Christians. They cited Leviticus. We don't want to do that. You can buy anything else in the store if you want. They didn't want that. So they went, the lesbian couple, to a panel, some bureau that they have there, not a court, and they decided that, no, the Christian couple should pay $135,000 in damages. Well, then they went to the courts. They lost. They appealed again, and they lost again. Then they went to the United States Supreme Court, and it decided a few years ago not to hear the case. They said they're going to send it back to the Oregon Court of Appeals to reconsider it, in light of the fact that they had ruled in favor of the guy in the masterpiece cake case where he said, I could not custom make a cake. Anyhow, so what they did in the Court of Appeals, they said, okay, we're going to reconsider. Maybe this panel shouldn't have asked them to pay damages of $135,000 because they didn't act neutrally. Well, that was really code for something else. They showed their bigotry, as was the case with Jack Phillips in the masterpiece cake one. These people on the panel said, you're just looking for an excuse to oppress gay people, and they compared them to people engaged in physical violence. Yeah. Anyhow, the Supreme Court now has decided that, they may consider this again. So we'll see where that one goes.
And hopefully they do take that up, because the bureaucrats just acted way overhanded and specifically cited these people for quoting the Bible as reasons for going after them. So really bad stuff. But another interesting case that is right now being considered by the Supreme Court involves a football coach in Washington who, after games, would pray. Constantly the school's moving the goalposts on them on what was allowed, what wasn't allowed. And it's just another one of these types of cases.
Right. Bremerton High School is outside of Seattle. Joseph Kennedy, he's the coach. He would ask the kids, if you want, let's join after the game's over. On the 50-yard line, we'll say a prayer. The school objected. If this went on for years, but then finally somebody complains, of course. And he says, okay, so I won't lead them at all. We'll all just get together and we'll say a silent prayer. School says you can't do that. We're going to ban all kinds of prayer. He said, why is this? Well, the students can see you. You should have been in a press box or in a janitor's closet. Yeah, nobody can see you praying. This is how dangerous the situation is. Of course, then he got lawyers for First Liberty. They do very fine work. And then he lost. And that's why this is now before the Supreme Court. And they've agreed to hear the case. And we got to get this thing settled, people.
Yeah. And it's not just the government that's acting poorly here, Bill, which is probably a bigger concern. But you also have crazy activists on the secular left. I want to read you a quote from Americans United for Separation of Church and State from their president, Rachel Laser, and get your reaction to it. She says, quote, no child attending a public school should have to pray to play a school sport.
Right. It sounds really cute. That's a nice little way of putting it. It's all untrue. She knows it as well. Nobody in the United States of America, not even there in the Northwest, nobody has to pray in order to play on a football, baseball, basketball team It's simply a lie.
Right.
She's just trying to come up with some cute phraseology here to cover her own bigotry. This is an organization, people, by the way, was founded after World War II as Protestants and other Americans united for separation of church and state. It was an expressly anti-Catholic foundation to this organization.
So we get that dealing with. But also, it's not just Catholics that are under attack. This week, Amnesty International put out a hit piece on Israel.
Yeah. Amnesty International claims to be a human rights organization. Well, if you're in favor of human rights, you have to look at things equally and fairly. What they've done now, they've said Israel is engaged in apartheid. This big, huge report. I went through it. I was saying, wait a minute, that's a scurrilous term used to describe what went on with racial division, segregation in South Africa. Yes, you've got a problem in Israel with Palestinians. Palestinians have a problem with Israelis. Well, the Arabs can vote there. I wish they could vote in some of their own countries. Now they're accusing Israel of engaging in apartheid. This is a left-wing kind of a gambit that they're doing. You'd think that they would mention, why is there Israel in the first place? Because they kept mentioning, this started in 1948. Well, yeah, that's right. It was after the Holocaust, right? That's when the international community decided that the Jews deserved to have their own nation. And they did carve it out, what was Israel a long time ago. Get into that. But the thing is that I looked at the report. Holocaust is mentioned in 2 sentences. It's the exact same sentence, and it's a throwaway sentence. There's no mention of Hitler. The Nazis married a couple of footnotes, and of course, you know who's excited about this? The Squad, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, Omar. All these people who are anti-Jewish, and they have been for some time, are celebrating. So is CARE, the Council on the Arab-American Relationships. But this really began with Human Rights Watch. Now, Human Rights Watch was founded by George Soros, which also funds Amnesty International. How about that? Human Rights Watch is another phony organization. They've been hammering Israel for some time. They came out first here just within the last couple of years, calling Israel an apartheid state. Now you have Amnesty International calling Israel an apartheid state. You know where they're going with this, people? They're setting it up now, teeing it up for the UN to say we have to have hearings on Israel, is it an apartheid state or not? And then, of course, at some point, they'd like to come after the Holy See. It's not really a nation state. Oh, yeah, this is the left at work. They don't like Jews. They don't like the United States. They don't like Israel. They don't like Christians. And they've made it very clear. And George Soros is behind it all.
Yeah. And Amnesty International is something that Catholics have had a problem with for a while. They've been very flip-floppy on their position of abortion, and now they're just fully committed to abortion.
Well, it is, and as a matter of fact, you know, it's interesting. When they were founded back in 1961, they didn't take a position on abortion. Okay. I mean, I would think they should have. They should have said
right.
that the unborn child has a right to life. They wanted to be agnostic, not say anything. Okay. Then, in 2007, they flipped. They decided to get involved in abortion, and you know which side, people, they came down on?
Yeah.
They came down on the side that the child has no human rights. This is a human rights organization. The child has no human rights, that adults need respect. And so we came out after them at that time. I smacked them at that time. And I'm very glad that the Vatican spoke up that you got to be careful of Amnesty International. They're indistinguishable from these others as well.
Yes, yes, they are. And one last piece that you might have missed, especially if you watched the president's address at the National Prayer Breakfast this week, because it didn't really sound like he was talking about prayer at all.
Well, no. As a matter of fact, he missed a great opportunity because, you know, the thing is that he spent most of his time with talking about old war stories with the past the guys, his colleagues, either dead or current ones that he had good times with and the like. I mean, it was a nice folksy kind of thing. You know, if you were in a nursing home, you might want to listen to it. But quite frankly, this is the National Prayer Breakfast. We'd expect something more. Now, on his plate that day, after he finished the National Prayer Breakfast, Biden was going to meet with Mayor Eric Adams here in New York City to talk about crime. You would have thought that maybe that might have been on his mind. We've had 2 funerals in the last week here, Mike, at St. Patrick's Cathedral for some Latino Hispanic cops in their 20s who were shot dead after responding to a call to help in Harlem. These guys are being buried. People are being shot in New York, the cops and others. You would think that he might say a word about this, but of course he didn't. He's more interested in talking about other kinds of issues, climate control, and what kind of ice cream cone he might get next, and that kind of thing. So again, he was a disappointment, but he didn't shock us. It's kind of par for the course.
Unfortunately, it is par for the course. Now, dear viewer, I know we've unloaded a lot of issues here. A lot of more detail can be found out about each and every one of these stories on our website, CatholicLeague.org. Be sure to check that out. We'll have a link in the description below for you. But a lot of good, timely pieces that you should definitely be interested in. Also, if you could like and subscribe this video, that would greatly help us get the message out there. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Bill.